The day those baby photos appeared online, something inside Prince Harry reportedly snapped because the woman he once promised a big family, a quiet life, and an escape from royal chaos had just welcomed her third child, and she wasn't living that life with him. She was living it with someone else. And that is where this story stops being a love story and starts looking like a slow-motion emotional car crash that the whole world is now watching in real time. Because this isn't just about an ex having a baby. That happens every day. This is about the life he planned, being lived by the woman he lost, the house full of children, the life outside the United Kingdom, the quiet happiness away from cameras. Those weren't random dreams. Those were plans, real plans, conversations they had over and over again about having a large family and building a different kind of life together, far away from royal pressure. And now, according to people who knew him back then, seeing her with the third child didn't just make him emotional, it hit him like a realization he can't escape from, that the future he once talked about is now happening, just without him. And here's where the story starts to twist, because the same man who once talked endlessly about wanting a big family suddenly went out into the world saying it would be irresponsible to have more than 2 children because of climate change. That shocked people who had known him for years, because they remembered very clearly the conversations about wanting a house full of kids. Something changed. Something shifted. And now, watching the woman he once planned that life with holding her third baby, that shift suddenly looks a lot more complicated than it did at the time. But the part that really hurts, and this is where the story gets uncomfortable, is that by all accounts, she isn't sitting around missing him. Not even slightly. She moved on. She built a business. She built a family. She built a life in the sun, far away from royal drama, far away from interviews, far away from public breakdowns and headlines and documentaries and lawsuits and security battles. She built the exact peaceful life they once talked about having together. And that is the detail that people close to this situation say is the real trigger. Not jealousy, not regret in a romantic sense, but something much worse. The realization of what you threw away with your own hands. Because according to his own biographer, the reason that relationship ended wasn't because she didn't love him. It wasn't because royal life was too much. It ended because he cheated. Repeatedly. When she went away to university and asked him to visit, asked him to meet her friends, asked him to be part of her world, he didn't go. Instead, he started seeing other women over and over again. She kept trying. He didn't. And eventually, she walked away with what people who knew her describe as dignity and self-respect, leaving him to deal with the consequences of his own behavior. Consequences that years later are apparently still catching up with him. And the people who watched them back then all say the same thing, which makes this story even more dramatic. They say she was the love of his life. Not the most famous relationship, not the most photographed, but the one that was real. The one where he was happiest. The one where he was most himself. She didn't care about titles. She didn't care about palaces. She didn't care about status. She fit into his world naturally, especially his love for Africa, for wildlife, for open space, for a life that felt normal instead of royal. That was the relationship where people say he seemed balanced, relaxed, genuinely happy. And it was also the relationship he sabotaged himself. Now fast forward to today, and the contrast is brutal. On one side, the woman who left is living quietly, happily, successfully, raising 3 children and running a business. On the other side, the man who let her go is locked in public battles, family battles, media battles, legal battles, security battles, while rumors about his marriage get louder and louder and louder. Because behind palace walls and PR statements, people have started noticing something. He doesn't look happy anymore. And not just tired of the media unhappy. Something else. Something heavier. People who watch body language started pointing out moments where he pulls away in public, where smiles look forced, where interactions look tense instead of natural. And once people see it, they can't unsee it. The clips start replaying. The same pattern starts showing up again and again. The same expression, the same distance, the same tension standing next to the person he chose instead of the one he lost. And that's when the story turns from romance to psychology. Because people who knew him when he was young have said something that suddenly feels very important now. That he was always an angry child, always emotionally complicated, always struggling with feeling like the spare, the second, the one who wasn't the future king. Even his own mother reportedly worried about his emotional stability anxiety when he was very young and took him to see psychologists because she could see something wasn't quite right even back then. And when you look at his life now, the family war, the interviews, the books, the lawsuits, the constant public anger, it starts to look less like random drama and more like a pattern that has been building for decades. And now everything is colliding at the same time. The ex has the third baby, the life he once planned. The marriage is under constant rumor and pressure. There's a very public fight over who pays for his security. There are reports about money deals changing, contracts ending, new contracts being negotiated. There are stories about a possible future book written after a divorce. They're not rumors from random blogs, serious publications talking about it. And if that book ever happens, it would mean the final collapse of the life he chose. So imagine the pressure of that. The ex living your old dream, the current marriage under global scrutiny, the fear of losing your children in a California custody battle if the marriage ends, the fear of what could be written about you if someone decides to tell their version of the story, the family you left no longer trusting you, the country you left no longer wanting to pay for your security, and the whole world watching your face in public, zooming in, analyzing every expression, every step, every glance. That's not just pressure, that's a trap. And the most brutal part of this entire story is that people who knew him years ago say he was warned about relationships, warned about decisions, warned about leaving the system the way he did, warned about moving so far away, warned about how hard it would be to come back, but he didn't listen. And now, according to people who watch this situation closely, he looks like a man who is slowly realizing that every major decision he made over the last few years cannot be undone. And then, right when all of this is happening, right when everything looks unstable, right when the pressure is at its highest, right when rumors are at their loudest, right when legal battles are ongoing and public opinion is turning colder, those photos appear online. A smiling mother, a new baby, a third child, a peaceful life in the sun, the life he once described wanting more than anything, but not with him. And what makes this story even more explosive is that while the world is looking at the baby photos and thinking this is just another royal ex moving on with her life, the people who really understand the history here are looking at those photos and seeing something else entirely. They're seeing a mirror being held up to a man who cannot escape his own decisions anymore. Because every smiling photo, every family picture, every birthday, every new child, it's not just her life moving forward. It's a reminder of the life he walked away from. And here's where the situation becomes almost painfully ironic. The same man who once had the entire royal machine behind him, the public on his side, global popularity, endless opportunities for meaningful work, military respect, charity platforms, international goodwill, all of that is now fighting court cases over who should pay for his security. Think about that fall for a second. From palace protection to courtroom arguments, from national treasure to political problem, from beloved prince to public controversy. That is not a normal life trajectory. That is a collapse in slow motion, and the worst part is that it's all happening publicly, with cameras on, with headlines running, with commentators analyzing every move. The security battle in particular is where things get really embarrassing, because the argument being made behind the scenes is brutally simple. He chose to leave, he was told security would change, and now he wants the same country he publicly criticized to pay for his protection anyway. And politically, that's a disaster, because regular people are struggling with bills, inflation, rent, and taxes, and the idea of funding security for someone who left the job and left the country is something many people simply do not accept. So now it's not just a family issue, it's a government issue, a legal issue, a public opinion issue. And every time this story appears in the news, it damages his image a little bit more. But the real fear, the one people close to this situation say truly terrifies him, is not the security battle, not the headlines, not even the family feud. It's divorce. Because divorce in California is not just emotional, it's legal warfare, custody battles, financial disclosures, lawyers digging into everything. And then there's the book. The one thing that keeps coming up again and again in media circles, the idea that there is a post-divorce book plan already in the background, a book that would tell the inside story of the marriage from the other side. And if that ever happens, it would make every interview, every documentary, every accusation we've already seen look small by comparison. Because here's the problem. He already told his story. He already revealed family secrets. He already exposed private conversations, which means if the other side ever decides to tell their version, there is no privacy left to protect. The door is already open. And that's why, according to people who watch this closely, he looks like a man who feels trapped, not stuck in a palace, not stuck in a job, stuck in a situation where every move he makes could make his life worse. If he stays, he looks unhappy. If he leaves, he risks losing everything. If he fights, more secrets come out. If he stays quiet, the narrative gets written without him. That's not a marriage, that's a chessboard. And while all of this is happening, the legal fights, the media deals changing, the public appearances looking more tense, the family relationship completely broken, the one person who could have shared a completely different life with him is somewhere else entirely, raising 3 children, running a business, and living so quietly that she almost never gives interviews, almost never speaks about the past, almost never even mentions his name. And that silence might be the loudest part of this entire story. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the life you once described, the one you said you wanted, the one you planned, the one you imagined, is being lived by someone who is no longer waiting for you to come back. And the cruelest part of all of this, there is absolutely nothing he can do to change that now.